It's now time for the Pony Cake Sports Podcast with your hosts, Josh Stevens, Tim Thompson, and Tom Schultz. Woo!
Hey there, everybody. We are back with another episode, and this time we are bringing you our must-starts, must-plug-in guys for the week. May not be the big-name guys that you're thinking of, or maybe it is, like Zeke Elliott and some other guys, Melvin Gordon. I don't know what Tim and Tom have brought to the table. We have kept this a secret, so we'll see how it goes. But these are your must-plug-in guys. We are going to go quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. So without any further ado, boys, how we doing?
I'm doing good, Josh. It was a absolutely fantastic first week of football. Fantasy was exciting, high scoring in every freaking league. We'll see what this week brings to the table, what all the new rules do. I feel like that has something to do with some of the changes. Defenders are a little more scared to make vicious hits, vicious contact, but it was a great first week.
Yeah, everyone was concerned about the plays to the defenseless wide receivers, and it turned out the plays to the quarterback were the big talk of week one.
I don't think there was one flag, right?
Not that I know of. No, I don't believe so. But there was it was the most ever since the early '90s or something like that for roughing the passers.
Yep.
There's 15 of them or something like that. Yeah. Something outrageous. So we'll see how that all plays out. But to your point, week one was fantastic. Very, very excited, and there's some big time games coming up here in week two. Very excited.
Just be warned, we may have some duplicates, so it is what it is. We're each going to give you two at each position. So let's go ahead and start it off. Tom, give us one.
My first one, it's kind of like one of the must-starts of the week for me. It's Big Ben versus Kansas City. Right now on DraftKings as well, he's 6,900, which it's a little pricey for the quarterback. I think he's the fourth most expensive quarterback. But this Kansas City defense right now, it's pretty bad. They got torched last week, and they also have an offense that could put points on the board fast. So that is good for Big Ben. Also with Big Ben, what is he known for doing? Putting up massive games against bad defenses, especially at home. The last 10 home games, he's averaged 30 points per game when facing a bottom 10 defense. And for me, the Chiefs' defense is a bottom 10 unit for me overall. I think Big Ben is a monster game, and I'm locking him in a lot of my daily lineups.
To add on to that, Ben Roethlisberger was one of mine as well, and they are facing the Kansas City Chiefs at home. Again, alluding to what you said, Kansas City last year was one of the two worst defenses in fantasy purposes. And they also just gave up 418 passing yards and 3 touchdowns to Phillip Rivers, which it probably could have been 5 touchdowns if their idiot wide receivers would have caught the ball. So I like Big Ben as well this week, especially at home and especially with those numbers to back it up.
I like Tom's guy, Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck against the Washington Redskins. I get that the Redskins got out to a hot start against a very bad Arizona Cardinals team. Cardinals really don't have their stuff together. I feel like Andrew Luck's going to be able to go out there and put everything together and remind people of who Andrew Luck really is. I expect him to have close to 300 yards, at least maybe 2-3 touchdowns, and kind of put his name back on the map of quarterbacks you want to have on your team.
The only issue for me with Luck right now is that weather. They're saying that the hurricane weather can affect that game, so you will be having to pay attention to that. But for me, Luck is pretty much a start every week. I think he's going to be he'll finish top 6 in my eyes. I think he was 11 overall in week 1, which isn't too bad for his first start in over 600 days in a real football game. So I was happy with Luck's overall performance and don't mind that one at all, Tim.
My number 2 quarterback is going to be a guy that is playing with the Browns and the Saints. Which quarterback do you think it's going to be?
Tyrod.
It's going to be Tyrod Taylor. You have to see what Ryan Fitzpatrick did against that Saints defense. Fitzpatrick is not a great quarterback. He is a second-tier guy. There's a reason why yeah, they've said that Jameis Winston may or may not be the starter. No, they're just pissing him off to get him ready. Jameis Winston is a starter when he comes back. But the thing is, Tyrod Taylor can make plays on his feet as well as throwing the ball. If you look at his stats, he was 15 for 40 attempts against the Steelers in Week 1. But I'm going to blame a lot of that on the weather.
Yeah.
So it was
Which you should.
terrible, terrible game. But he had 77 yards rushing as well. I think that we're going to see a very good game out of Tyrod Taylor. And I like him for it. There was goddamn bug flying in my face. I like him. I like him for a top 12 performance.
Josh, I don't hate it, especially with the addition of the Browns saying that Josh Gordon's going to be starting this week. Hugh Jackson, the interim coach until he gets fired, has come out and said that. So I don't hate that. The guy that I'm going to go with is more, honestly, due to garbage time. Russell Wilson. Playing on Monday Night Football. I feel like it's going to be very similar to what the Bears showed last week. Russell Wilson's going to get roughed up early in the first half and maybe early through the third quarter. What Russell Wilson has shown in the past is, regardless, he's going to still continue to be out there and continue to be throwing. I expect him to be over 250 and have 2 to 3 touchdowns. Yes, he's going to have the 2 interceptions, but look for him to be a 11 to 13 quarterback, somewhere around that 12 average. He's going to put up numbers just because they're going to be down early and often, and he's going to have to throw the ball around.
Yeah, it's probably going to be like that almost every week with Russell Wilson right now. He's carrying that football team. There's not a lot of top-end talent on that team anymore. They're trying to rebuild around Russell Wilson. Kind of sucks. He just lost Doug Baldwin. I think that does hurt his stock a little bit. But as long as there is some garbage time and they are playing from behind, they will be airing the football out, which is always good for Russell Wilson.
Let's go ahead and move on. Dirty, you got one more quarterback, right? Yep.
My last guy, you both are going to freaking hate this. I'm going with Dak Prescott versus the New York Giants.
I hate the shit out of it.
This is solely based on pretty much daily fantasy football. Right now on DraftKings, he's $5,600, which is the 22nd most expensive quarterback on DraftKings. I think that's definition of good value. That'll allow you to slide in a lot of the more expensive running backs and receivers. That's what you want to do. He had a horrendous game against the Panthers. Completely aware of that. But this week he's playing at home. He's much better of a quarterback at home. He's also should be having a more successful run game with Ezekiel Elliott behind him against an average front seven for the New York Giants. In 11 of his last 16 home games, he has had a quality start, and 11 of the last 14 with Zeke. So when Zeke is healthy at home, it's almost a lock that he has a good game. I think Dak Prescott's a sneaky play this week.
I don't love it, but I get it. No, honestly, I don't hate it. Listen, Andy Dalton just did his thing against the Giants, so there's no doubt that
he was against Colts.
I'm sorry.
Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles just did his thing against the Giants, so I have no doubt in my mind that Dak could go out there and do it. I actually kind of agree with what you're saying.
I don't. I hate it. I hate Dak Prescott.
You don't see the value though?
I do.
The 22nd overall quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I see the value. I hate him so much. Let's move on to running back. I'm going to go ahead and go first. I'm going to go with running back Dion Lewis.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's kind of a sneaky play playing the Houston Texans. Do you guys know what the snap count was for Lewis and Derrick Henry?
Not off the top of my head. I think he had like 70% though.
71% for Dion Lewis and 29% for Derrick Henry.
I don't know the exact carries there. It's probably close to
49 for Dion Lewis.
Carries.
I know, 49 of the 69 plays, Dion Lewis was on the field. But the thing is, you have to look at this. The Houston Texans, they just played the Patriots. They have a running back, Mr. James White, that can catch the ball out of the backfield. Delaney Walker is now out for the season. You have Jonnu Smith that may be able to replace Delaney Walker, or you have Dion Lewis that could probably catch the ball a little bit more out of the backfield. I love Dion Lewis. Super strong this week in PPR formats. Love the possibilities.
My love is going to be more of an obvious one, but we've all been down on him, so I feel like it's worth us saying his name to give some credibility to us. Alvin Kamara blew up last week. Alvin Kamara had a monster game in a loss against the Cleveland Browns this week. I feel like it's going to be very, very similar. You're going to see a lot of the same from Alvin Kamara. You're going to get close to 30 points just because he's going to be running the ball. He's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. It's going to be a lot of the same from what Alvin Kamara, from a PPR standpoint, he is the premier back right now, above anyone else.
He's a special talent, and Josh, I like your Dion Lewis as well. He's very cheap on daily right now. You can get him, and the main reason I think in my eyes, why he outsnapped Derrick Henry so much was because they were down.
Yeah.
I think the same thing's going to happen this week with Deshaun Watson. I think he's going to have a bounce back game. Not a believer in the Titans. We'll see if Mariota is out. If he is, you gotta expect Lewis getting a majority of those snaps. My number one must play is Melvin Gordon against the Buffalo Bills. Right now, $7,400 on DraftKings. Really cheap for a guy who should get over 25 overall touches. You know, the Chargers, they aren't really a very good road team, but the one thing that really does travel well with this team is their run game. 13 of his last 15 road games, he's had a quality start, been a top 24 running back in those games, averaged 20 points per game in PPR leagues. It's phenomenal. I don't expect the Buffalo Bills offense to really be putting up much of a fight. I expect this game to be kind of over with kind of early, and that means a lot of rushing attempts and overall touches for Melvin Gordon.
My running back number 2. Who do your Colts play, Tom?
Play the Washington football team.
Exactly. They play running back Chris Thompson, not Adrian Peterson. The Colts gave up 149 yards from scrimmage to one Joe Mixon, also one touchdown. The couple stats that I looked at over and over again that kind of really made me giggle to myself is that Adrian Peterson had 2 catches for 70 yards. One was 52 yards.
Yeah.
He's not known as a receiving running back. That should be Chris Thompson right there. He did have 6 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown, 5 rushes for 65 yards. But if they gave up that many yards to Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon is an elite guy, I think we can all agree that he's on his way to being an elite guy. He's a good guy, a good player right now, on his way to being elite. But Chris Thompson is a better catching running back right now in his career where Joe Mixon is currently. I like Chris Thompson a lot this week, especially against the Colts defense.
I like that. I like that quite a bit. My guy's going to be a guy who we've all been high on, and I think this is going to be his breakout week. It's Delvin, my wife can't cook. He's going to blow up against Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers allowed Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard, for that matter, to kind of roll through the first half of that game. And then afterwards, the Bears got kind of predictable, let the Packers defense dictate how that game was going to go. Vikings won't do that. They have too many weapons. Kirk Cousins is too good of a quarterback. Dalvin Cook's still going to get his. He can catch the ball. He's going to get the ball out of the backfield. I would not be surprised to see 3, 4, even 5 catches out of the backfield for a Dalvin Cook to go along with his between 15 and 20 touches this game. Big day for Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, that's exactly what I liked about how they're using Cook, giving him the receptions and the targets out of the backfield, something they really weren't doing as much last year. He was kind of on a limited snap count this week, but still caused the second most missed tackles this week out of any running back. Dion Lewis was the first, which is impressive. My second guy is going to be Jordan Howard versus Seattle Seahawks, $5,900 on DraftKings. I think it's pretty good value. I like him because how I see this game going is the Bears getting up. I see it being a similar game to how the Green Bay game was, but Matt Nagy learning from his mistakes and relying on Jordan Howard. I also absolutely love how the Bears used Jordan Howard last week, in all honesty.
He caught the ball, 2, 3 times?
5.
Oh, yeah.
5 targets, 5 catches. Was on the field for 79% of all offensive plays, which is fantastic. Ran more routes than Tariq Cohen, had 22 overall routes. This is exactly how I thought they were going to use him, and they did it to a T. I wish they ran him a little bit more in that second half, but overall I was ecstatic with Jordan Howard scoring close to 15 fantasy points without finding the end zone.
Realistically, if Jordan Howard is out there catching the ball like that 3 to 5 times a game, he is
RB1.
Well, he's an RB. He's a poor man's Melvin Gordon. is what he is. I mean, he has the
Theoretically,
ability to get there. I know.
Because then you look at Tariq Cohen, and there's your Austin Eckler.
I was down on Howard because I thought he couldn't catch the ball. If he can catch the ball 5 for 5, that's something. I have no arguments to that. I have no problem admitting I was wrong.
Did you have another running back, or did we cover yours?
I got both mine.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to wide receiver. I went first last time with the running backs. Tim, you're going to go ahead and start because I believe you went with quarterback first. Tight end. Wide receiver. Getting ahead of myself. Wide receiver, here we go.
He said, to quote one Rihanna, who said, "Be better, have my money." the New York Football Giants did. And Odell Beckham Jr. got paid. And now's the time for him to show out against the Dallas Cowboys. This is the premier game, Sunday Night Football. Odell Beckham Jr. did not have the game that he wanted to last week. It was the premier matchup against Jalen Ramsey. He played it off. I was actually kind of proud of him, the way he played it off. You didn't see what you thought you would see out of it. I'm okay with that. This is the week, with as improved as the Cowboys' defensive secondary has been. This is the week Odell Beckham Jr. needs to show up. This is the week he needs to put his team on his back and say, "Hey, Saquon Barkley, I love what you're doing. Hey, Eli Manning, I get that you are a stud, you're a franchise guy, but I'm going to ensure that we don't go 0-2. I'm putting our team on our back." Odell Beckham Jr. goes out there, puts them on their back, gets close to 150 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and the Giants win this game.
That's a big game. The only thing I'd be worried about is that offensive line protecting Eli and DeMarcus Lawrence kind of making life hell for Eli, which he was able to do last year. But OBJ, he should torch that defense. He should have a big game. I think he had 11 receptions for 111 yards last week. He should be able to do something similar to that. My number one receiver is going to be Jarvis Landry against the Saints. He's pretty cheap on DK right now, 6,300 over the past 3 years. He's been the most consistent wide receiver in fantasy football. More consistent than Julio Jones. More consistent than Antonio Brown. That is saying something. A lot of people, besides us, were freaking out about him, saying he's not even a wide receiver too.
That's why we went out and we took him early in our podcast pro league where we're whooping and wiping the floor with Marcus Grant and Jake Seeley and these other turd burglars.
All of them were down on Jarvis.
Can you say turd burglars on this podcast?
Yeah,
is that allowed? Producer said yes.
It's approved.
Thank you, Justin.
The one thing I love about Jarvis, I think it's pretty clear right now that he's in Todd Haley's system. Todd Haley was with the Steelers, and the Browns right now are using Jarvis Landry the same way the Steelers use Antonio Brown, and they're forcing him targets, which is what you want. He had a great week last week. I think 2 receptions over 30 yards, so he's showing that he can get the job done, and I actually liked him and Tyrod together.
Yeah.
Juice has got it, and he's blessing those cornerbacks every week.
Yeah, I love Tyrod. I love Tyrod this week, as I talked about a quarterback, but I love Jarvis Landry now that they've actually announced Josh Gordon as a starter. Even though they said that did you hear about that? They said they were not going to start Josh Gordon, and yet he still started.
Yeah. Because
of the package. Marvin Lewis is a joke. But I'm going to go with my 2 wide receivers because they're from the same game.
Ooh.
Opposite teams. Wide receiver Pierre Garçon and wide receiver Kenny Galladay. You guys kind of laughed at me when I said Kenny Galladay was going to be one of my higher ranked guys. I had him ranked above Marvin Jones. I didn't even have Marvin Jones ranked in my top 30. Kenny Galladay had 7 receptions this last game for 114 yards, 12 targets. He was catching the ball at ease. But the thing is, look at the targets. 12 targets, Tim. Marvin Jones, 8 targets only. That's a big difference in numbers right there.
4 is actually the number.
It's a big difference in numbers. The 49ers, they have wide receiver Marquise Goodwin most likely out this week. I love the fact that Pierre Garçon, I think, is going to be the safety blanket for Jimmy G. I think the 49ers are going to put up a lot of points early, and then I think we're going to see, again, the Lions try to come back. It is Matt Stafford's MO to try to lead his team back. What is it? The most fourth quarter comebacks ever.
Yep.
And Kenny Galladay could be that guy late in the fourth quarter. I like those 2 wide receivers if they are your wide receiver 3, or trying to decide between a wide receiver 2, 3, and a flex, I would make sure that they're starting on your team.
Again, I don't hate it. I agree with what you're saying. I know that Matthew Stafford's going to be throwing. It's just who's going to be the guy? Is it going to be Galladay? Is it going to be Marvin Jones? Is it going to be Golden Tate?
Galladay.
You don't really know. You don't really know.
I think it's going to be Golden Tate, Galladay, Marvin Jones. I think it's safe to say Golden Tate is a low-end 1, high-end 2, and then Galladay is your 3 and your flex. I think that's safe to say.
I think
Marvin Jones, in my opinion...
Saying that it's safe to say is not it.
I'm going to trade for Kenny Galladay in our league, and I'm going to start him.
Please do. I have a guy here this week for my wide receiver number 2 I want to talk about. Pittsburgh Steelers. Not Antonio Brown. Juju Smith-Schuster.
Ooh, I thought you were going to go on a limb and go with Darius Hayward-Bay.
No. Antonio Brown, he's going to be probably matched up against Denzel Ward.
Or DeShone Kizer.
Ward had a big week last week against one Antonio Brown, but Brown still got his, and he probably still will get his this week. But Kansas City Chiefs secondary is not very good, and Big Ben at home, I love Juju Smith-Schuster and what he's going to bring. I feel like he's going to get his targets. Look for him 5-6 receptions, maybe 70, 85 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm going to be all over that game, especially in daily. I think that's going to be a big-time scoring matchup. I think it is going to be one of those A-B games, though, but I think Juju's somewhat cheap enough where you could still throw him in there as well. My last guy is going to be one of Josh's boys.
Ooh.
It's one of my guys, too, Chris Godwin.
I like it.
Against Philly, 4,600 on DraftKings, so he's another one of those guys that's cheap, that'll provide good value. And I'm guessing right now, but I'm pretty sure Deshaun Jackson's going to be out. And what's good about that is when Godwin has received over 40 snaps in a game, he has never had under 13 fantasy points in a PPR league. So he's pretty much guaranteed to get over 40 snaps this week, hopefully closer to 60, which would be a career high for him. If he can do that, I think he's got potential to come close to 20 fantasy points in a PPR league, in all honesty. I think the Eagles are going to work on shutting down Mike Evans, who's the clear number 1 option for Tampa Bay. And I like Godwin a lot this week. Just that value alone. He's a guy you just got to pencil in your lineup and get studs at other positions.
Yeah, especially if Deshaun Jackson's out. We've touched on that, and I like that play quite a bit. Which kind of brings me to my next point with our tight end package here. Mine's O.J. Howard. If it's not going to be Chris Godwin, I think it's going to be O.J. Howard. And I'm a big fan of O.J. Howard this week. I know I've drafted Cameron Brate in a couple leagues, but O.J. Howard, he's getting the snap count much higher than Cameron Brate is. He is the guy that I think is going to have a big week this week if you're looking for a sneaky tight end play.
My tight end play is going to be Jimmy Graham against the Vikings. I feel like the Packers are going to be whether it's Aaron Rodgers or DeShone Kizer. I know you guys are assuming that Aaron Rodgers is going to start, and he very well may. Either way, I like Jimmy Graham. I feel like he's going to be the guy. He's going to find a way to get a touchdown. Did not have a very good game against the Bears. It's going to be his, hey, I'm here. I'm going to be the guy, and he's going to put up some points.
My one guy this week is the guy who just torched that Minnesota Vikings defense that your guy's going against him, George Kittle. Josh, you brought up your argument with Pierre Garçon.
Yeah.
I think it could be a similar case with George Kittle right now, and DK, $3,800, super, super, super cheap, and he played all over the field, was a field stretcher. As long as this dude's going to stay healthy, I think he's going to be just peppered with footballs week in and week out. Him and Jimmy G have got a good relationship between them, and he's just a matchup nightmare. His spark score was higher than Evan Ingram, David Njoku, O.J. Howard, all those players from last year, which is super impressive.
Defenses-wise, just real quick to touch on it, the Jets, they had one of the highest scoring defenses in fantasy. Are you going out and are you picking up the Jets, and are you going to play them this week?
No, because they're not going to be able to cheat every week like they did this week.
Cheat? What?
Yep.
Matthew Stafford just sucked.
The Bears were a top 10 defense last year. Are you starting them this week against the Seahawks?
I'd feel comfortable starting them. I don't think they're going to score an enormous amount of points, but I think they'll end up as a top 12 unit, especially with Khalil Mack and his increased snap count.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're going to give up points to Russell Wilson, but they're gonna score theirs. They're going to get their sacks. They're going to get interceptions. They have the opportunity to return punts and kicks as well. So absolutely, I would be starting them. They're gonna at least push to be a top 10 defense once again.
All right. That's all we have. I thought this went pretty well for our first time doing it, boys.
Good job, Joshy.
It's my first time.
So we'll bring this segment hopefully to you guys every single week. Next episode is going to be our must-sits of the week, so go ahead and listen out for that episode. And then we may do another episode at the end of the week, undecided at this point in time. But you guys can follow us on Twitter at PonyKegSports, at Pony_Keg_Tom, at Fight Talk Tim. Go to our website, PonyKegSports.com, and you guys can always email us your questions, PonyKegSports@gmail.com. And until next time.
Peace!